Hey everyone, I wanted to do a quick video kind of reflecting on my art over the past few years. I kind of have reached a new place in my art where I'm feeling more confident and free to do whatever it is I wanted to do, and I decided to pick up my favorite sketchbook from a few years ago and see what has changed since then. I have not looked at this in a while. In fact, when I picked it off my shelf, and still now, that it's covered in hair and dust and all the things that cat owners have to deal with. So yeah, I haven't looked at this. I'm excited to see it, but we're just gonna get started. So this is a sketchbook that I finished at the end of last year. Yeah, I finished it on December 15th in 2022, and this was my 100th sketchbook. This one here is one that I filled in April and May of 2021, and it is my 42nd sketchbook. So I did a lot of work in between these. This is a moleskin notebook, the pocket size, just like the one with the really horrible paper. I love bad paper, so it works out. And then this is a tome that I make. We sell one similar to this. We're gonna make ones that have like Sailor Moon on the cover soon, so whenever that happens, it will be on the new Wonko shop, but for now, yeah, that's what this is. So we'll just go and look at this one first. Sorry about, again, cat hair galore. But yeah, so if you're wondering, this is Dymo labels that I put on. You have to super glue them on too because it will come off. And then this is like a vintage Denison label that I labeled it with originally, but I then archived all my sketchbooks and they all have these Dymo labels. Normally I spray my books, and I clearly didn't do that with this. That's why there's all these papers in between. This is definitely not great for colored pencils. I remember this one so vividly. I remember working in this one and I was like so, like my love for art was real. I could feel it. Some portraits, which is so weird to see in an old sketchbook because I went through a lot of portraits when I was in college, and then after college I stopped doing portraits. I thought that it was just not what I wanted to do, and so I did a lot of like landscape stuff, but this was kind of like the start of me doing more abstract things. So there's like a lot of these like circle bits. I was just starting to use colored pencils a lot, which is now one of my main things. But there's a lot of drawings and then a lot of crap, which is good. That's what you want to see in a sketchbook. I remember being so stressed during this too. Like I hated everything I was doing. I'm like, this isn't good enough. Like, which is fine. It's fine to make stuff that looks like crap, you know? These, like, I have always wanted to draw characters. It's something at this point that I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna try. And it wasn't until this year, 2023, that I feel like I'm actually allowing myself, but this was the first sort of step towards that. This is a study of someone else's work. Here's their name. but that's what sketchbooks are for. Studies and garbage. So yeah, trying my best to do character stuff after going away from that for so long. I was using this technical pen, which makes me really want to get that out again. The thin lines are crazy. Like, the texture it gives the paper is like really it doesn't really matter, but I don't know, I really like it. Yeah, I still love this bit. I ended up doing like prints of this and similar drawings for Patreon. Swatches. That's like blinding. It's crazy that like my love for neon colors, it was kind of like just starting at this point, and it's crazy that it's still going on. I feel like my color palette hasn't changed too much. Like, I love all these. I feel like this is a good example of the character art that I really wanted to do. I still want to do stuff like this. I named this little guy Flynn, but I haven't explored that kind of thing too much. This is inspired by Nephro Soup, the way that they use colored pencil. This is hilarious to me. Blank stuff. I remember sitting outside. This is like the best thing about sketchbooks. Like, you kind of remember all the things you were dealing with or thinking of, or it's like a, I don't know, like a scrapbook for artists. But I remember sitting outside on my back porch looking at this like old lady that was gardening, and just drawing all sorts of things. I love this guy. Looks pretty cool. Yeah, this is a friend, that's for sure. Cat hair. It's so funny that it was like, this is probably the beginning of the pen situation for me. Now I'm completely obsessed with like fountain pens, which is part of the reason I moved out of Moleskine notebooks, because they're so bad for fountain pens. But I just bought myself a ballpoint pen, which is like a shitty pen, pretty much. They're kind of crusty, and but I wanted that like kind of crusty texture, so I'm excited to play around with that. I haven't yet. Like, this sort of stuff, like, I do this when I'm frustrated, so it's really funny to see myself be frustrated over stuff that I, now looking back, I'm like, oh, I really like this. But I was so like hard on myself. This was all that same day that I did the drawings outside, so it started here. I remember drawing all night long, so this is all the same day. This was looking at Natalie Andrewson's work. I have a lot of their prints. Genji from Animal Crossing. So like, this is the type of stuff I do now, like fan art, but it's like wonky and bad, and like that's what gets my brain fired up. But it's funny to see that I was making bad fan art and I hated it, but now if I did the same thing, I'd be like, oh my god, I love this so much. It's like the intention behind it is like what makes it art, in my opinion. Yeah, this is also from that same night still. The stuff is so clean, which is so weird. for me. I think at this point it's a different day, but I don't know. Mushrooms or ocarinas, I can't tell. I started thinking of this like concept of, and like I work on multiple sketchbooks at a time, so I remember sketches that I was doing at the same time as this, but I was thinking of like the concept of how when you remember something, you're actually remembering the last time you were remembering it, so things get like more diluted as you go, and so like that's kind of what this concept was. Swatches. Oh, Friends, Animal Crossing Friends. This was looking at Lottie's work. This is their Instagram handle. They're very amazing. Youre. Ken Dunn. I don't know who that is, but I did a study of their work. And that's it, besides that swatch. Yeah, so it's funny to see this and be like, why was this so prolific for me when it really is just a bunch of pages that are scribbles and crazy stuff. But I remember like the feeling I had when I was working through it, and I think that was like one of the first times I felt like completely free to do whatever. I think this one specifically I had planned on not showing anybody, which I mean obviously that didn't work out because I'm showing you guys, but that idea of like doing stuff that doesn't matter, no one's gonna see it, no one's gonna care about it, and that's like a good thing. I think that was transformative for me, even if a lot of the stuff is, you know, relatively garbage, which is great. So that's that one. And then here is my 100th sketchbook. I think right now I'm on 104, but this is number 100. And I'm loving what I'm doing. This is very recent, so I'm sure and sometime I'll look back and be like, wow, what was I thinking? But there's more like wonky character stuff, trying to do character art, and it's weird, and that's okay. Specifically, I like to draw holding my pen like this. It makes things look weirder, and I think that's like the kind of stuff I like. I like it when lines are kind of weird like that. Like really, really like this stuff. But it's funny too, because I remember doing this and being like, oh god, like this sucks, and it says oh no, and this stuff, like it says no more eyes first, because I always draw the eyes first, and then like their eyes are way too far apart, and it's weird. I still have that problem, and I'm still not great at drawing like characters, but I look at this and I really like it. I like it, feels really stylized, not necessarily like it's like I'm just not able to do it. It feels more like I did it on purpose, which I totally didn't. And like I love the ballpoint pen, how it gets like kind of clumpy at the ends. I don't know if that makes sense. Here, I can Do a little up close. But yeah, there's something about that that I love, but when I did this, I hated it. Which is another reason I scream it from the mountaintops. But don't rip your drawings out, because like you might look back and this might be something you hate when you do it, and then you look at it later and you're like, oh wait, I can work from this or whatever. Yeah, so then there's like these collage pages, which I'm like into. I definitely like them, and they're my type of art. I absolutely love like the whole look of it, but they're not practical for me to do because you gotta have a lot of stuff on hand. So yeah, I haven't been doing as much of those. And then these are like blind drawings, which I feel like are a great way to like feel like it doesn't matter if you make ugly stuff in your sketchbook. These are what I call like kind of blind. It's like you still look at your paper while you're drawing, but you try to look mostly at the reference, and you hold your pen from really far away, and you don't get fussed about like where the lines go. So they're weird and wonky, but yeah, like look at this arm and the face. Yeah, these are really fun, and it's a great way to fill a sketchbook real quick, because like you go fast. I love this one. This is how I feel all the time. Oh, and this is Sucrose from Genshin, and me and my sisters and my fiance, we always say Mr. Albedo in her voice, and that's what this is. This one was, I think, transformative for me because I did these on location. So I was looking at this mountain thing in Sedona and drawing it, but like in my style, which is like it looks like a toddler threw up on it, which is like I'm totally into. But I think that idea of drawing on location, drawing from real life, but it has to be representative of what is actually in front of you. I think that's like really hard to overcome and really hard to like get out of, especially if you go to art school and you learn that, and like that's how you're learning, is you're drawing people in front of you, you're drawing things in front of you, you're learning to observe the world and try to replicate that. And really what comes out of that, like whatever your hand is doing is your style. And so we all could be drawing the same mountain, but like trying to do it realistically, but everything is going to look different because of how we hold a pen or whatever. But the idea of like drawing, like looking at something like a mountain and then trying to draw that with your own style in mind, like with your own like sensibilities about color and texture and all of that stuff, without worrying about being photorealistic, like that, like I'm sure that's super obvious to a lot of people, but for me, I was like, oh my god, you can do that, like that's crazy. So yeah, so these were like really important to me, and they still make me very happy to look at, because I think about when we were in Sedona, I think about like that whole trip, and they are the things I love: stickers and pastels and neon colors. So this was on the plane home from that trip. And then I started drawing way less because I was stressed out and we had to go back to work. So a lot of that was on vacation. But I'm still doing, like you could tell, like I'm doing way more character stuff. Like pretty much all of these are some sort of like anime or game character. And that's like the stuff I wanted to do a long time ago, but I like wouldn't let myself because I was like, that's not real art. I'm an idiot, and it's taken me a long time to unlearn that that's not real art when it really is. Like art can be whatever you want it to be. Really like this one. I like him too. He looks very sleepy, which is adorable. I could tell that there's like a lot of, I'm worried about the proportions and what it looks like. So there's a lot of like half started things. I'll actually show you the sketchbook I'm going through now, where it's a little bit different. Okay, so here's a bunch of blind drawings, it looks like. I do a lot of blind drawings based off of like Sailor Moon because it's easy to find a lot of screenshots of, and I love Sailor Moon, so. This is, I love this. There's like glitter all over it. Oh, and some of it's coming off. I don't know how to glue glitter on. But then there's stickers and highlighters and markers and colored pencil and collage. Yeah, I really like this page. I tried another one. It's cute. It's not as cute as the first one though. Blind drawings, I'm thinking. I'm hoping. A study. I cannot read that. Another study. Washi 008. Her face is cute. See, there's so much and I'm like, I hate this, and then I stop. I really like this one. It's cute. So I'm starting to like let myself do it, but I can feel that there's so much more like hesitation. Swatches. I also realized that, oh my gosh, I like that. I realized that there are, that's hilarious, this face in this one. Oh, I completely forget what I was gonna say. Oh, I like when things are more complicated. I honestly think it's a lot easier to draw something when there's more to draw, when it's more complicated and there's more lines and all of that. I think getting proportions is a lot easier than when you have to draw something more simple. And I also feel like even if your proportions are super off, if there's a lot of lines and a lot of different things to look at, it's not as like, oh my god, this is a really, really horrible drawing, you know what I mean? Oh, I like this one. I'm pretty sure that's a Goku. Poor guy. I don't know what that is. So these must have been blind drawings. So I still want to draw like cute little characters, but I also want to do like portraits. Yeah, there's a lot. This is the end, it says, number 100, and then there's swatches, so I lied. And I think that's it for that. And then I'll just show you this one here. So this is 103. I'm working on this one and 104 at the same time. So this is I feel like, okay, this page, I know it looks wacky. But I was like, okay, I'm gonna just keep drawing until I draw something I like. And like trying to change like different aspects of the way I'm drawing characters in order to get to something that I like more. And then this one, oh my god, I don't know what my hand was doing, but I love it. Ignore the venti with a freaking beard, but this is so cute and exactly what I want to do. I realize that I draw way too fast too, which is good in some ways, but I think I just like the whole slower thing. So you can also see that like this one on the left is not what I necessarily want to do, but it's not that bad. But I stuck with it more than just like drawing one thing and being like, I don't like this. I think sticking with something, specifically in a sketchbook, it kind of gives you the opportunity to then look at it and be like, okay, I like this sort of thing. I like this line, or I like the negative space here, which I wouldn't have seen if I would have given up just because I didn't draw the face right. And I really like this one. So I'm trying not to give up as easy as I was, but you know, we'll see how that goes. Because I just kind of started this. I'm still doing the same thing where like I will hate something and I always write something like this, like, oh yikes, or wow, or this is shit. But really, like, it's not that bad, and it's not really, I actually like how this page looks. I like that it just looks like a sketchbook. It looks like I was experimenting and trying things out, and it's okay if it's not perfect and amazing. Yeah, this is a study of someone's art. Their Twitter handle is 6_xxx_x. Just so you know. I don't know why I picked brown for this, but I did. This one's cute too. Yeah, I really like the whole ballpoint pen thing. This, I don't know if you could tell, but this pink pen underneath is like neon and glittery. Back on my bullshit where I'm just starting things out. Testing out pens. And I actually got cut off from drawing this, so that's a whole other thing. And then I'll show you Sketchbook 104, which also has cat hair on it, even though I've used it yesterday. So I decided to go back to a moleskin notebook just to try it out. She's a little weird. She looks all scrunched up, but that's okay. And this is it. This is all that's in there. But I did this, and I actually, like, once I did the eyes, I was like, this is going to be way too, like, he's going to look like a baby. And it's true, but that's okay. I learned from that, and then I was like, okay, I'll just try again, but make the... It's like the face, like I don't make it long enough. I'm always like making it too tiny, so I try to extend that a little bit. He still looks like a baby, but he still looks better, I think, more normal. So yeah, that's it. That's like the progression. Let's look at all this stuff. Like, it's funny that I'm still drawing the same characters too. I don't know. Looking at this stuff makes me pretty happy though, because I see that I'm like, look how perfectly this is laid out. Technically, it's a sketch. Technically, this is kind of random and all over the place. But the more I get away from posting every single thing I do on Instagram, the more I'm like letting myself make ugly, horrible mistakes, trying things out, doing things that I am interested in, and then eventually making art that I'm proud of. It doesn't necessarily matter that this stuff is not, you know, there's nothing that's going to come of this specifically. I'm not going to make a print out of this. I'm not going to turn it into anything. It just lives in my sketchbook. And I think we tend to forget that that's okay. It's okay to make stuff that's just crap that's in a sketchbook, and it all serves a purpose. It furthers you on your creative path, but it doesn't have to be this. It doesn't have to be perfectly laid out. It doesn't have to be something labored over. It just has to be, you know, something you enjoy experimenting on. So hopefully this was inspiring in some capacity. Hopefully you feel like looking through your old sketchbooks now and seeing how far you've come. I know personally, I have always felt like I've almost regressed. Like if you look at sketchbooks I did in like 2016, I feel like they're more well thought out, and like every page is perfect, and like full blown watercolor paintings on every single page. But to me, that just looks like a nightmare. It looks like someone who wasn't having nearly as much fun with art. And I think that's kind of like where I'm at on my creative journey. Just like do whatever I want, draw cute anime boys like I want to, and like say fuck it pretty much. So hopefully this was helpful in some way. If you have any questions, let me know. I do sketchbook flip throughs on Patreon, so if you want to see all of my sketchbooks, obviously there's 104 of them now, so I do flip throughs every month on there. I also just opened a new print shop for my new art that I'm really excited about, so that'll be in the description. And yeah, so it'd be great if you could check that out. If not, I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.